You can lie to your friends, to your boss, to strangers, to yourself, and most of the time the lie just floats in the air like dust, harmless, forgotten, fading. But there's one place where lies don't dissolve. One room where every untruth spoken is treated not as deception, but as design. No one knows who built the room. No one admits to discovering it first. All we have are records, scattered, redacted, incomplete. It appears in different locations, behind locked doors in government buildings, beneath abandoned schools, even once inside a forgotten wing of a hospital. It's always the same, square, featureless, one chair in the middle, and a single flickering light overhead. But its function never changes. If you speak the truth, nothing happens. The silence is deafening, the air unmoving. But if you lie, if you know what you're saying is false, something shifts, not in the room, but in reality. Slowly, precisely, as if the world around you has been instructed to catch up to the fiction, and it listens too closely. It doesn't correct you, it doesn't punish, it adjusts. And once it adjusts, the lie becomes fact. Documents change, memories twist, photos blur, birth certificates rewrite themselves. What was once false now fits perfectly into the world's structure. That's the horror. Not ghosts, not screams, not possession, just permission. The room doesn't create, it edits. It turns your lie into a new version of history, and no one, not even those closest to you, remembers what used to be true. No one except you. Some say it's a test. Others say it's a relic of something older, a tool left behind by a reality so fluid it could be bent by language alone. But the stories are all the same. One person, one lie, and a world they no longer recognize. And the more lies you tell inside it, the more unstable things become. Not just around you, but within you. Because when you are the only one who remembers what was real, the room isn't the only thing that starts to feel false. Welcome to Tales from the Forbidden Library, where truth is fragile, memory is currency, and some lies are too powerful to ever take back. The earliest known incident tied to the room comes from a now-erased interrogation file, dated 1963. A man named Thomas Greaves was brought in for questioning following the disappearance of a local councilwoman. Witnesses had placed him near her home, his fingerprints were on the door, and a neighbor swore she heard shouting hours before the woman vanished. The authorities didn't take him to a standard facility. They took him to a location not listed on any map. A decommissioned fallout shelter beneath a municipal archive. A bare room, concrete walls, no visible cameras. Just a table, 2 chairs, and a single overhead bulb that flickered like it was syncing with a second heartbeat. That was the first known use of the room.
The transcript of the interrogation is short. Greaves is silent for most of it, calm, detached. Then he says a single line. "I didn't kill her."
No force, no anger, just the statement. A lie. Everyone in the room knew it. And yet, something changed. The air went still. The recorder buzzed and skipped. The light stopped flickering for the first time in hours. And then, nothing. He was released less than 24 hours later. The evidence was gone. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no record of a councilwoman by that name, no missing person report, no career history, not even a birth certificate. It was as if she'd never existed. Greaves walked free, not because he was innocent, but because there was no longer a crime to attach him to. The officers were furious. They demanded a follow-up, but every request for further investigation hit a wall. Not bureaucratic resistance, absence. The names involved were scrubbed. Files disappeared. Entire case numbers rerouted to blank indexes. Even those who remembered the case could no longer find proof it had ever happened. Except one. The lead interrogator, Agent Samuel Keir, kept a private journal. He wrote that the moment Greaves said those words, "I didn't kill her," something deep in his chest twisted. Not fear, not guilt. A sudden and overwhelming sense that something had been traded, and the price hadn't revealed itself yet. He later wrote, "It's not the lie that changes the world. It's the world that rewrites itself to protect the lie." Keir disappeared 3 months later. Some say he went searching for the room again. Others say he tried to use it. But no one ever found him. And no one remembers who replaced him. Because that's how it begins. Not with shouting, not with violence. Just one simple lie. And a reality that quietly rewrites itself around it. The room doesn't rewrite reality all at once. It edits in layers, starting with the surface. A sentence spoken becomes a ripple. First, digital records vanish. A text thread disappears. An email goes blank. Then, physical files follow. Newspapers lose headlines. Yearbooks blur faces. Photos fold inward where people used to stand. Then the deeper layers shift. People's memories begin to soften, like wet ink bleeding across the page. Friends forget events. Family members forget names. Not in dramatic gasps or sudden confusion, but gradually, like those memories were never worth holding on to. You try to remind them, and they look at you with gentle sympathy. "I think you're remembering it wrong." And maybe you are. Because the more the room changes, the more isolated you become. The world agrees with your lie now. You're the only dissenter, the only ghost of what once was. And that starts to erode your certainty. Were you right? Was it a lie? Or was the lie always waiting to be made true? Some report that mirrors stop behaving normally. They reflect the new version of you, the one who never knew the truth. Others say they catch glimpses of their real memories in dreams. But even there, the colors are wrong. The faces flicker. Reality isn't fighting your lie. It's adapting to it. One man claimed he used the room to say he had never lost his child. At first, it seemed like nothing changed. Then, over days, the photos on his phone altered. His wife stopped talking about the accident. His daughter's room, once sealed shut, was clean and bright again. She was alive, laughing, but she was different. The tone of her voice, the gap in her memories. He said she looked at him like she didn't recognize him. The truth is, the room doesn't just erase, it reconstructs. It builds a world where your lie has always been true. That means inventing people, erasing others, rewriting the trajectory of entire lives. You don't just change your story, you change theirs too. Worse, it never tells you what was lost to balance the lie. For every truth overwritten, something genuine must be deleted. A real memory, a real bond, a moment that mattered. But you won't know what until it's too late, until you reach for someone who used to know you and find a stranger instead. Some say the room leaves a residue, a sense of dissonance, objects out of place, photos that don't match the date, people who react to you like they've just met you, even after years. Reality corrects your lie, but not perfectly. The seams show if you look close enough. And if you lie too many times, the seams start to tear, not just around you, but inside you. Because when nothing around you is real anymore, what happens to you? Eventually, the room wasn't just a secret. It became a tool. Not officially, not publicly, but quietly. Whispers passed between those in power, those in pain, those desperate enough to say anything to make the unbearable untrue. And once the pattern was understood, people stopped fearing the room. They started using it. The first known case of deliberate use involved a media mogul facing collapse. Scandal, fraud, a paper trail a mile long. He was escorted to the room under the cover of night. When he emerged, he simply said, "There was no company." Within days, investigators found nothing. No staff, no bank accounts, no history of the brand at all. Just empty buildings and confused investors staring at paperwork that now referred to something else entirely. The man wasn't ruined. He was erased and reinserted into reality as if none of it had ever happened. After that, others followed. A failing actor who declared, "I was the star," and returned to a world where he'd always been famous, at the cost of the original lead, now never cast. A grieving widow who said he never died, and found her husband alive and well, though distant, changed, like his soul had been overwritten to match the new narrative. Some began using the room for things it was never meant to hold, grand lies, reality-defying lies. I was never born poor. No one ever hurt me. The war never happened. Each lie more desperate than the last. Each one warping the world further until cause and effect started to loosen like threads from an unraveling garment. But the room never says no. It doesn't resist. It simply listens and rewrites. The danger wasn't in what was created. It was in what had to be uncreated to make room. Real people blinked out of memory. Towns rewritten. Families severed by invisible edits. And those who used the room too often reported something terrifying. They no longer remembered what their original life felt like. One man kept a notebook outside the room, a log of what he believed to be true. But after his 5th visit, he stopped writing. Not because he forgot, because he stopped caring. His past no longer anchored him. His identity was floating, scattered across a dozen rewritten timelines. They say there was a woman, never named, who entered the room and said nothing but, "Everything I ever wanted came true." She vanished moments later. Not from the building, from existence. There are no photos of her, no voice recordings, but the pen on the table where she sat was still warm, because the more you change, the less of you there is to return. The worst part isn't that the lie becomes real. It's that the truth is gone forever. The room doesn't keep a backup. There's no undo button, no memory tucked away for safekeeping. Once it rewrites the world, the original timeline is discarded, like old paper burned in a bin. You can scream what really happened. You can show evidence, but the evidence will vanish. The photos will change. The witnesses will blink at you like you've lost your mind, and maybe you have. Because memory without proof becomes madness. People try to go back in, try to reverse what they said. She was dead. No, wait, she's alive. But the room doesn't respond. It doesn't recognize retractions. It only listens to intent. You spoke it because you wanted it to be true, and now it is. You don't get a second chance to unwant something. The room doesn't trap you in the lie. It traps you in the consequences. And sometimes the consequences are subtle. A look that doesn't last as long. A silence where laughter used to be. Other times, they're devastating. Entire lives vanish, replaced, rearranged, as if you were given the script and told to act like nothing's changed. But it has. And the longer you live in the lie, the more it becomes the only version of yourself you can remember. Some say the room isn't even in one place anymore, that it appears wherever it's needed, not summoned, but offered. You find it when you're at your lowest, when you want the truth to stop hurting, and once it knows you're ready to give up the real story, it opens. There are people walking the world now who've used it, people you pass every day, living in realities sculpted by a sentence they spoke into a room no one else remembers. Some are happy, some are hollow. All of them are alone in their knowing. Because when you are the only one who remembers the truth, the lie wins. And if that room ever appears for you, be careful what you say. Because the room doesn't punish liars, it just believes them. If this story unsettled something in you, let me know in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's rewritten their past too well. Because truth isn't permanent. It's just what hasn't been edited yet.